Theater is not a viable option. I've heard many say that sentiment in many different ways through many different mouths, and eventually I convinced myself of that, so much so that I thought I was done with it entirely. And yet, it still called me back. I've been a starving artist, a parched creative, desperate to hit a creative vein. And witnessing my story connect with others when I expected it to reach nobody, I felt a strong sense of determination, and I deserve to pursue what makes me happy. I need to stand up for myself, so I'm auditioning for a show, and I haven't done so in 5 years. It's a place to play. It's a chance to be within that environment again. The goal is to be in person, but I might have to submit an audition 5 to 10th. I have a week. Fortunately, I've had cold chicken feet for a while now, so I only gave myself a week to prepare a monologue to audition with. To act is to be vulnerable, naked, metaphorically, for all to see, to witness, and to give myself to the stage for a chance for it to be taken away. The thought terrifies me. Little Women. Literature before its own time. And what better way to break back into the spotlight than a revolutionary tale? The story is a period piece set during the Civil War era, following a tight-knit family of primarily women. They are the March Girls, marching on despite the society norms that try to suppress them into a box. If this is my breakthrough production, it's a very poetic in a way, trying to figure out my own belonging.
If I was a girl in a book, this would all be so easy.
It's so much easier to sink into a fictitious world, making things up in your head, than adjusting to the reality of our world.
The world is not in your books and maps. It's out there.
This is my callback to theater. I'm married because I'm just like him. I deserve heirs. 1 week until the audition. I need a monologue and quick. The audition criteria is that I can perform 2 1-minute long monologues or 1 90-second monologue. I want something that matches the spunk that Joe March has.
I'm gonna kill you!
Monologues I have don't scratch that itch. It was under my nose the entire time. I've been so obsessed with this book series. So much so that I have an upcoming video on it. The Court of Thorn and Roses. It's a fantasy collection set in a society that values fae lives over humans. The Argent sisters from the fantasy novels have some alignments with the March sisters. If I can capture Jo's essence in this monologue, it'll heighten my odds to get to read for her. The tricky part is narrowing down a passage that will fit the bill for an interesting breakthrough monologue. But I found it. Fun fact, something I learned when trying to select a monologue for an audition, the most important thing is keeping it engaging, and that means try to avoid monologues that are telling the past. It's okay if it delves into that, but it needs to be something active that you are actively trying to get the other person, or in this sense, you're trying to get something out of them. So I'm very, very excited to do this monologue, as well as playing on the nuances of trying to push somebody away and wanting them at the same time, that push and pull. Oh, I'm so excited to play those dynamics. I'm debating if I should eliminate the language in it, because there is language, and I think this period piece will not have language in it. But the essence of it is the same. Don't want to deter that opportunity, but I mean, at the same time, I don't want to cheapen it either. So I'm going to play around with that. We're going to time it. Eris is the brute. He's a brute and he's a piece of shit. As I'm reading, I'm filling out the beats, the vibe of the material, and timing, and I'm performing about 50% of my energy for timing accuracy rather than playing out choices. And by the end of it, and I can spice it up to make it sure it's right on time, and I'll make it work because I need to get out of this creative rut. I'm sorry. This is just pure joy I'm feeling to actually put myself out there and keep myself accountable with this documentation of it with the week I have and get this boat going. Oh boy, you're in for a bumpy ride. That's what this. Oh God. First order of business, getting the lines into my body. You are everything I've never been and will never be good enough for. You are everything I've never been and will never be good enough for. I deserve this. He's a brute. He's a piece of shit. And I would marry him because I'm a piece of shit. I hate that I did that to you. I know that's not the word, but I went with it. Why go through this madness? Now, I need to memorize it pretty much without second thought, like it's second nature. Get it into my mind, into my body, and then work out the acting kinks. It reduces the likelihood of blanking. In order to play around with the material, I first need to lay the groundwork, which includes working between the lines, memorizing, and then playing around with the execution to avoid stagnancy. You're everything I've never been and everything I just had it. You're everything I've never been, never been enough. You're everything I've never been. You're everything I've never been and will never be good enough. You're everything I've never been and never been. Everything I've never been and will never be good enough. You are everything. And I practiced until I hit a breaking point. As soon as I turn on the camera to record this, I get all nervous. Unfortunately, I wasn't crying on cue. Well, technically, anyways. While I stopped practicing lines for a quick TikTok browse, the waterworks, they began to flood my eyelids as soon as Kitty's absence was felt. The absence of tears was no more. But for the actual stage, it turns out I have a drought, but for not only creativity, but for crying on cue. Well, conventionally, crying on cue.
And I deserve him. I would marry him. God damn it. Eris is the brute. He's the brute, and he's a piece of shit, and I would marry him because I am just like him. I deserve him. You're a kind Cassian. You are brave and brilliant, and I could kill anyone who has ever made you feel less than what you are. And I know I'm a part of that group, and I hate it. You are everything I have never been and will never be good enough for. Your friends know it, and I've carried it around with me all this time that I do not deserve you. I didn't deserve you before the war, I didn't deserve you after, and I certainly don't deserve you now. And why do you think I kept pushing you away? Why do you think I wouldn't talk to you? After my father died, after I failed so many times, denying myself of you was my punishment. Don't you get that? From the moment I met you, I've wanted you beyond reason. From the moment I saw you, I could not stop thinking about you, and that terrified me. No one has ever held such power over me. And I'm still terrified that if I give myself in to you, it'll all be taken away. Someone will take it away. And if you're dead, it doesn't matter. I do not deserve you, and I never ever will. So when the moment presented itself, I seized that opportunity shamelessly, just to get a glimpse of how it would feel to be swept away by the moment. And I rewatched it. Despite the tears not deriving from the source material per se, I realized that I just caught my best embodiment of the monologue. It was raw, especially that angle. But I haven't been able to recreate it since. Although the source material is radically different, the connecting emotional thread is lost. If this taught me anything, it's that I need to explore the character more now that I have it memorized. I'm carrying it around all this time, and I do not deserve you. I didn't deserve you before the war, I didn't deserve you after the war, and I certainly don't deserve you now. Micheal Chekhov, the man who coined the usage of psychological gestures as an acting method to elicit inside-outside acting through physical gestures. The physical gestures is an embodiment of the inner life of a character.
So really, the psychological gesture is about the connection between number one, your instrument, and number two, your inner life. And that's really all it is.
One of my instructors in college taught me what she called the katakata, a rendition of the Chekhovian gestures through a series of structured movements derived from Micheal Chekhov's technique. If I can brush up on this technique, maybe I'll be able to tap into what I previously experienced with. Embarrassingly, I have cried utilizing this technique before. My acting instructor had us spread throughout the room, and I chose an isolated spot away from everyone. We were tasked to run through our monologue with the gestures using different qualities when executing the forms. I crumpled up like a soda can, yelling at the obsidian-stained curtains. The lines reverberated over me, and it hit me like a pile of bricks. And after the guttural cry bursting with anger and pain, there was only silence. And within that silence, I heard a shuffling towards me. My teacher pulled me aside and asked if I was okay. I was not, in fact, okay. I was mortified. I felt so exposed.
It's exposure, but acting, art, it's all about the observation of human nature and experience. He will not stop staring at me like this. And it lives it out in those different forms. And to be a vessel, so to speak, of that is beautiful and scary, all in one tied ribbon. And the key to making resounding art is letting go.
You do nothing, and the air, the wind, the impulse simply moves you.
My best performance of the monologue was when I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just being. I was just in the moment and then decided to take that moment, capture that moment. That was the best it's been. And it's because I need to let go and listen.
With 5 days ago, I began the same movements that had once sent me into a frenzy.
More than reason. More than reason.
From the moment I met you, I've wanted you desperately. From the moment I've met you, I've wanted you desperately. It's almost like I'm ripping a present to open. The moment I met you, ooh, did not like that feeling. No sorry. From the moment I met you, I've wanted you more than reason. Lost it. There are a few characteristics Chekhov values within an actor. Beauty, form, ease, which, if you can't already tell, it's one of the aspects I tend to struggle with, and the feeling of the whole. And I think it's that same feeling of the whole that keeps me coming back for more. All of these aspects I am hoping to achieve in my audition.
Eris is the brute. He's the brute, and he's a piece of shit. And I would marry him because I am just like him. I deserve Eris. But you're good, Cassian. You're good, you're kind, you're brilliant, and I would kill anyone who's ever made you feel less than that, less than what you are. I know. I'm a part of that group, and I hate it. And you are everything I have never been and will never be good enough for. Your friends know it, and I have been carrying it around all this time, and I do not deserve you. I didn't deserve you before the war. I didn't deserve you after the war, and I certainly don't deserve you now. Why do you think I kept avoiding you? Why do you think I wouldn't speak to you? After my father died, after I failed so many times, denying myself of you, it was my punishment. Don't you understand that? From the first time I saw you at my house, you were all I could think about. From the moment I met you, I've wanted you beyond reason. I'm terrified. No one has ever held such power over me. And I'm still terrified that if I let myself have you, I'll be taken away. Someone will take it away. If you're dead. No, it doesn't matter. I do not deserve you. I never ever will.
Okay, I just watched it back. It was better, but I think I'm gonna tone it back a little bit. I think I'm a hair too much. Last time I did it off camera, it was so much better. I swear, I promise it.
I had to not just memorize the lines, but read between them. Don't worry, I'm not going to be marathoning these books before the tight turnaround. I'm just highlighting from each reference book to enhance my analysis.
Acting's all about actions. I think I'm going to try 2 objectives and see which one I like better. I want power and I want love. As it mentions in this book, just saying I want blank is not enough for acting. It's bland, it's not enough to play around with and work with. It's not bland, it's too general. And you want specifics to make something interesting. And I've been focusing mainly yesterday and some today on memorizing. Now I pretty much have it memorized. I'm gonna start doing the nitty gritty of the work. So I'm gonna write down the excerpt, I'm gonna break it down into beats, break it down into objectives, and then play around with the actions. Without an objective, tactics are just tactless. I am not immune to being vague, picking general, vague objectives, which produce generic acting, flat acting. It's a problem you can see here in my process.
Is my punishment.
The moment is falling flat here because of a misalignment within the inner life of the text versus my personal inner life interference. You see, the pruning gesture in the video was a clear indication of my dissatisfaction with the progress I was making, hence the long-ass pause. Despite the urge to stop, like many times before, I met you. I wanted you. I kept going because you don't get a chance to start over at an audition or on stage. Not to mention, there have been many times where the mishaps actually create something better, organic. So it's best to ride the wave, covering the beauty aspect of the act. Objectives need to be measurable. I want the scene partner to verb me. Something you can envision your imaginary scene partner to do, or not to do, which fuels each tactic. Hindsight's 2020, and I must admit that my package is, as it stands, it suffers from lack of clarity with the objective.
I hope by taking the time to look through the beats and writing down the material, I will end up narrowing down the objective from 2 objectives to 1. I'm 4 days away from this audition, and although I'm making progress, I haven't memorized. I think it is ready. If I had an audition today, I think it would be good. But it's still missing something. I still think on a macro level, Nesta wants power. She wants agency because she's always been in fight or flight mode. She's not ever had that experience of being beyond that, I guess. And she's comfortable with pushing people away because she is uncomfortable with herself. And I think that's really powerful in this monologue because it's breaking down those layers, but because it's so complex, there's so much to work with. So I wrote the first line of what Cassian says in the books prior to the monologue excerpt as a starting point. It's good to know before the monologue to pinpoint what they say before you. If they don't, then you make something up so that you can have something to bounce back with. In the book, it's this whole thing he says, so it's a big build up, but the last line he says, "But go ahead, Nesta, go ahead and fucking marry him and good fucking luck to you." I imagine he says this right before he storms out the door, but I want him to stay. No, I want Cassian to touch me. I want there to be a magnetic pull, reminiscent of one of those historical dramas. Hand side by side, twitching, stretching, yearning for a touch, yet never quite making it. I want that energy present in the scene. A little tricky to accomplish, I must admit. Maybe even impossible without a scene partner, but we're gonna try. I struggle with imagining another person, so I need to establish what the person is doing beyond just their tactics, which I wrote down Cassian's reactions per se, but I don't think it's strong enough. I think I need to actually he sits down or he tries to walk away. I feel like I'm putting more physicality to it instead of the emotion. It's hard for me to bite my teeth into. And I think that's what's missing is that verberation is not as strong as I'd like it to. It's bothering me. I want to be really, really proud. So let's go on. And a curtain call is a breath away. I'm 2 days away from the audition. Most of everything I can get to that point where I want to keep at something and at something and at something and like beat a dead horse, and it prevents me from following through. So I'm gonna be streaming my practicing progress and get that feedback from the people watching if anybody does watch. But also it'll give me the feeling of eyes on me in a sense. I think that pressure is necessary for when I'm actually doing the monologue anyway. A mock audition, if you will. Wow. Hi. It's been a hot minute, y'all. So I'm gonna start sitting down, and then once I get to the vibes of it, I might start standing up too. I won't look at the camera while I do the monologue, because that's gonna be awkward. I don't want to make you a scene partner, an unconsenting scene partner, because that's awkward. You don't want to be like, I love you.
Eris is the brute. He's a brute and a piece of shit, and I would marry him because I am just like him. I deserve Eris. But you're good, Cassian. You're so good. Kind, brilliant, brave, and I would kill anyone who's ever made you feel less than that. Less than what you are. And you know, I know, I've been part of that group and I hate it. So you are everything I've never been and will never be good enough for.
Oh! God damn it, Ratchet. Regroup, refresh. Something that I've noticed with myself is I get into a rhythm.
Eris is a piece of shit.
I want to play around with it. You know, I want to really feel the other scene partner in the room with me. Oh, it's gonna be so hard with a cute little Ratchy on my shoulder. You're so cute!
Eris is the brute. He's a brute. And a piece of shit. And I would marry him because I am just like him. I deserve Eris. But you're good, Cassian. You're so good and kind, brilliant, brave, and I would kill anyone who's ever made you feel less than that, less than what you are. So you're everything I have never been and will never be good enough for. Your friends know it. And I've been carrying it around with me all this time that I do not deserve you. I didn't deserve you before the war. I didn't deserve you after the war. And I certainly don't deserve you now. Why do you think I kept pushing you away? Why do you think I wouldn't speak to you? After my father died, after I failed so many times, denying myself of you was my punishment. Don't you understand that? From the moment I met you, I've wanted you more than reason. From the moment I saw you at my house, you were all I could think about. And it terrified me, because no one has ever held such power over me. And I'm still terrified. If I give myself into you, take it away. Someone will take it away. And if you're dead, it doesn't matter. I do not deserve you, and I never ever will. That I felt that more, and I think it might have helped that I was up on my feet. Oh, thank you! At that moment, I was hoping that was a good omen, that I may be a part of the local theater's herd soon enough. I'm terrified. I've been scared to do this. I've tried to talk myself out of it so many times. Just like I'm trying to talk myself out of doing this in front of people. Even on stream. Gotta remember, it's, you know, what I've been doing for so long of my life. And it's always scary when you first start, but when you get back into the swing of things, it's really an experience that you can't really find very easily. Is it too late to turn around? Go back. Is that really?
worthwhile stories must have conflicts, and I am ready to face my innermost conflict, my final boss. It's far too easy to roll up within myself and envy every other creative soul out there expressing themselves. All the while I stay hidden between my confines of my cozy little complacency. And truth be told, I'm still scared of the dark. Not for what lurks inside of it, but of the allure of it. It's easier for me to hide when things are beyond my control, my comfort. And if I hide in the dark, people will be exploring it and will find me. And will spare myself this pain that comes with being seen.
On top of just being nervous about the audition, I am nervous to ask to record, but I'm gonna ask nicely. The worst I could say is no, and we'll find out. Shoot, I just missed my turn. It's alright, I'm leaving early anyway.
Despite leaving early, I was cutting it close. My audition is at 8:30 p.m., and I missed my turn that would have cut off 10 minutes of my trip. The closer I got to the theater, the more my stomach dropped through the floor. I made it. 10 minutes to spare. My nerves are quite evident because I forgot how to use my phone properly. Oh, God damn it. And I had all but 5 minutes to wait before.
Virginia.
Cool. Well, whenever you're ready, friend.
Eris is the brute. He's a brute, a piece of shit, and I would marry him because I am just like him. I deserve Eris. You're good, Cassian. You're so good, brilliant, brave, and I know I'm a part of the group that makes you feel that you're not those things. But I hate myself for that. I would kill anyone who's ever made you feel that way. Your friends know it. I don't deserve you. I didn't deserve you before the war. I didn't deserve you after the war, and I certainly don't deserve you now. Why do you think I kept pushing you away? Why do you think I want to speak to you after so many failures and my father passing? Denying myself of you was my punishment. Don't you understand that? So from the first time I met you, first time I saw you at my house, I couldn't stop thinking about you, and it was beyond reason, it was beyond thought, and it terrified me. I'm still terrified that if I give myself to you, then it'll be taken away. Someone will take it away. It doesn't matter. I do not deserve you, and I never ever will. Thank you.
Good job.
My audition was by no means perfect. In fact, it wasn't the best that I've performed it.
God damn it. Still having leftover nerves. Of course, when I did it, it came out a lot softer than I practiced it, but when I went in there, I just didn't feel like that fit that moment. Interesting how you play around so much and you kind of find different ways to do it differently, if you will. She said that she's gonna call me back. It's a different one than I auditioned for. Excited to see, it might be a comedy from the sound of it, because she wanted me to do a comedy and I prepare that, so.
Do you have anything comedic?
What's something they always tell you to do is prepare another monologue. And of course, I didn't. Kind of a sunset moment, really.
And I got a callback. Not one, but two. Two callbacks. I'm no longer a starving artist, hiding in the shadows. I'm finding my light. Theater is a viable option for me, because I'm enough.
You haven't had enough of me yet? Okay, good. You can click here, subscribe here,